and you're randomly selected, and I don't want to do jury duty.
No one does.
So I'm filling out the form, and my friend said, why don't you write something really inappropriate, like I hate chinks, you know? And I'm thinking, yeah, but when you think about it, I don't want people to think that of me, you know? I just want to get out of jury duty. So I just filled out the form, and I wrote, I love chinks. Thank you. That's the joke, you know? It's a joke, it's a joke that points...
So where is the joke?
Well, I have to say that that's not the biggest laugh I've ever heard a joke get, but it did get a laugh. And considering the setup here, stacked against that joke, that means that joke is still funny.
Really?
Well, if with this setup, that joke still got any kind of a laugh, you got to give something to that joke.
Well, can I point something out for the initiative, for those who don't know? I mean, calling a Chinese person a chink is the same thing as calling a black person nigger.
Absolutely.
This is the way we take it, and we don't think that racial slurs should be used in this kind of off-the-cuff kind of way, because it gives more permission for people to use it in less appropriate situations.
If I might just interrupt for 1 second to address our censors directly. This is going to be a show about race and some of the terms people use. Please, I know it's ABC policy to bleep out these words. It's just going to make you look silly. Let us have an adult discussion. The show is on after midnight. We're not using it in a way to offend people.
This is the most appropriate time to use this language, because we're using it
we're not using
in context.
We're not using it
for a reason.
To be right. We're not using it to be vulgar. We're trying to have an open discussion about this.
And an honest discussion.
And I believe that comedy reflects society, and I feel that that joke is a joke that points a finger at racism, just like it's your job to point your finger at racism. And I think that it's inappropriate and it's counterproductive to demand an apology for someone who, like you, is illuminating racism just for doing it in a different way that you do it.
I think you're giving yourself too much credit. I think that, first of all, I understand satire. She said this was satire, it was taken out of context. I said there was no context. I enjoy good satire. I mean, satire is a great device for making great points through comedy. But if you don't know how to do satire correctly, you make situations worse.
You're going to tell me how to do satire?
You make people
no, but
believe.
Let me
finish my point.
If I can finish my point.
I'm trying to.
If I can finish my point.
That's what my act is about.
If I can finish my point. If you don't know how to do satire correctly, you run the risk of making people think that you really believe what you're saying. And until you know how to do satire correctly, I'd stay away from it.
But look at the thought it's provoked.
So you're telling me, you are telling me, sir, that there is some joke that could use the word chink, done correctly, satirically,
I think it is
that would be okay.
No, I don't
Wait a second, that's what you said. You said it just wasn't done correctly. So what, give me an example.
I am just addressing one of the points you said, which was satire. I'm saying it wasn't good satire anyway, but I'm saying...
But that implies that some joke would be of such good satire that she could have said chink.
What she could have said, I hate Chinese people, I love Chinese people, would have gone, okay, funny joke, haha, and that would have been over with.
That's not the point
The point is you use a slur that you thought you could get away with on national television.
That's absolutely not true. I used to say it with nigger, and I have said that on Conan the last time.
NBC would have shut you down.
Has it ever been edited out?
No.
So on Conan O'Brien, you said a joke using the N-word, and it was never edited out.
That's right. You can get the tape.
The thing that irks me was that Sarah came onto this show to defend herself, to save face. And, you know, people didn't give me the courtesy of asking me to be on here and talk for myself, but here I am.
You've talked to yourself in countless newspapers.
But anyway, so she comes on the show here, and she says, she comes on like a wounded bird. And she goes, you know, this guy, Aoki, he has cast my name with racism in thousands of periodicals across the country, and it hurts. I want an apology from him. Well, think of the hurt that you felt and multiply that by the millions of people that you offended by using that word, and I think you get a little bit of a sense of what we feel.
You know what?
One other point. Well, one other point. You know, when you're playing with racial slurs, you're playing with fire. And if you're going to be playing with fire, expect to get burnt.
And you know what?
That is so jackass.
You know what? This is why I find this really fascinating, and I'm glad you're having this discussion, because it needs to be had. We need to have an open dialogue about race, racism, sexism, homophobia. Here's the thing. I'd rather be here talking about a movie. I'd rather be here talking about other issues. But because racism and sexism and other deplorable attitudes and behavior is so prevalent in our society, we have to talk. I'm tired of talking about this.
But I'm not,
I am
and that's
so
what I
tired.
do.
But I don't want to convert anyone. I'm talking to my choir, because I can't tell you how many times I'm at a dinner table or I'm playing golf or whatever, and I have to hear someone say, oh, he really Jewed me down on that, or he was slow as a nigger, or look at that beaner run, and then I have to say,
Who are you hanging out with?
who do you hang out with?
God.
Let me tell you. When I am in a company,
Well, that's what you get when you play golf.
there you go. But when I'm with a mixed crowd, I cannot tell you 99% of the time someone is going to make a racial slur.
And the fact that that exists, that's what I address.
your joke isn't helping it.
If you want
Yes,
to,
it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Sarah, if you
Look
want
at
to
this.
make a
We
joke,
wouldn't have this forum
it's
if I didn't
only-
tell that joke.
can I make a point?
It's
if you
only
want to
not
make a joke,
helping it in amongst the hypersensitive.
If you want to talk about the Jewish community and make jokes about them, that's fine.
constantly
That's
do.
fine. But once you start making about other ethnic groups, there's a different element that comes into place with this thing.
Yeah, it
I mean,
provokes
I don't
thought.
think people really understand the hurtfulness of this word. I mean, whether it's nigger or chink or Jap, these words have been used to subjugate minorities, to make them out to be less than human. Once we make these people less than human, we can do awful things to them.
Yes, but
okay?
those-
The Native
we
American
can
Indians.
lynch Chinese men at the turn of the century when there's too many
But
of
it
them,
is not
or
of
they
the,
get too
but
uppity.
it is not the turn
We can
of the
put-
century, sir. It is
If I
the
can
turn
finish,
of the
sir,
other century.
If I can finish, sir. In the 1940s, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
right? People were saying Jap this, Jap that. They called people Japs so much that 120,000 Japanese Americans, loyal Japanese Americans, could be put
Yes.
in internment camps for 3 years while everyone else stood by because they were
And
just
that was
Japs.
wrong.
But
Awful,
wait,
and
but
how
more
is that
recently,
analogous?
but more recently,
And more
an
recently.
Asian American student was stabbed to death. He was of Chinese descent, and the assailant wrote "chink" on his car. Now we're talking about a month ago. We're not talking about
Yeah,
turn
and
of
we're
the
talking
century.
about a lone nut, and to indict the entire society
We're not
for that
indicting
is
the entire
disingenuous.
society,
Of
Bill.
course you
No,
are.
we're not.
I'm just
Say
indicting
that
Sarah.
what
We're putting it
I'm
in
just indicting
context.
Sarah.
No,
Words
there are-
I have to take a
hurt.
commercial. We'll
Words
come
hurt.
back to this subject. All right. Now, David Spade, you took a bye on the first round.
Yeah.
But was it
Just-
because your name? Because you felt that your name
Yeah.
disqualified
Your
you
name
for this
offends me.
discussion?
That's getting me in trouble. No, I just feel like, I mean, it gets real heavy and deep here, obviously. I do agree with Sarah where, on one hand, it's, in comedy, I do the same thing. I mean, there's things I do, and you take risks in comedy, and Richard Pryor did, and everyone does, and you kind of offend just to shake people up, and that's the way it is. Some people get hurt, and some people like it, and you move on, but it is comedy. You're not seriously saying these things. If you were on a talk show just saying, I really believe this, and these are,
Yeah.
and this is what I think, then I think it's more offensive. The other thing is I get offended if I see black comics talk about Whitey, and I know it's not as rough as Chink or the N-word, but I don't like that either, and they can do that night and day. I mean, Chris Rock, who's
Here's
a great
the
friend, could
difference.
say,
Here's the difference.
the white man makes toast like this, and he's
Yeah.
an idiot, but the black guy. I mean,
But you know what? Racism and discrimination is about power. And once,
Right.
if ever,
I agree with you.
The
There's
power
a double
structure-
standard for a reason. Because we
Exactly.
are two different races with two hugely different histories.
Exactly.
However, you were talking about, you said the turn of the century. Now, I have an issue about, you called it the N-word. I say that, you know, blacks are like, whites cannot say this word. I disagree. This word has changed in the last 10, 15 years.
according to who?
According to culture, according to the fact that
Ask
it's in
any
every...
African-American person in this
Every
audience.
African-American
Every
person in
rabbi.
this
What that
room
means,
uses
man.
that word night and day.
No,
it's in
you're
every
wrong.
song. It's all
You're
through culture.
wrong.
Could
You're
I finish my
wrong.
point before you attack
Yes.
it? Okay. The word has changed. It has been co-opted as a term of endearment. There is a bad old word.
From blacks to blacks.
I think I'm the only
Not
one
from-
qualified
Okay,
here
okay.
to talk about
All right,
this
wait a
issue.
second.
Blacks to blacks. There's
First
a very
of all, I
different
wouldn't
dynamic.
even know you were black if you didn't tell me.
Does it matter
No, it
about
doesn't
color?
matter. No, it doesn't
Attitude?
matter. But
See,
lots
this is
of-
what I love. I love when white people try to define African Americans. What is African American? What is an African American? I'm African American
Okay.
regardless of my skin color or my hair or my clothes or my attitude, and I think I'm the only one on
But-
the stage who's qualified to talk about the meaning of the word, how it hurts, how it doesn't hurt, where it's used, the history
Okay.
of it, because I live it every